Hey guys, this is Daniel Cutright, host of the Winning Mentality podcast. Just wanted to take a minute before we get into the show today and say thank you to all of the listeners, your continual support. It's so much appreciated. And we're actually in the process now of looking for sponsors for the Winning Mentality podcast, which is exciting. And so if you want to get the word out about your brand, product, or event, we have some phenomenal guests coming up soon. You can reach out to me via email. It's cutrightpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, cutrightpodcast@gmail.com. And we can find a way to work together to tap into our network of loyal listeners to keep the show going strong. Support comes from listeners like you. So thank you again for your continued support, encouragement, and sharing each episode to spread these awesome stories and positivity they deliver. If you enjoy the show, you can show your support by donating via Venmo to username @winningmentality. You can think of Venmo as like a virtual tip jar. And so these donations will go towards hosting and production expenses, whether it's $1 a month or $10 a month. It's all appreciated and helps keep the show going strong. And so think of it like once a month, you're buying me, the host, a cup of coffee. I love coffee and I love doing the show. And so it's all very much appreciated. Even if it's just a one-time donation, that's awesome too, and can help us continue to grow the show and leverage additional resources to keep bringing on quality guests and inspire more and more people. And so if you decide to donate, feel free to also include a short message and let me know why, whether you just enjoy the conversations or maybe there was a specific episode that impacted you in some way, shape, or form. I would love to hear about it. Last thing before we get into the interview, I'm always appreciative of the listeners who take the time to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. These reviews and ratings help new listeners find the show and also let future sponsors know what the listeners like you think. Thanks to everyone who recently shared an episode on their Instagram and Twitter as well. Tag me and the guests from that week, and I'll do my best to reshare. So again, thank you for all the support. Now let's get to it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. In today's episode of Winning Mentality, my name is Daniel Cutright, and super stoked to have our guest on today, Miss Christine Patruno. Christine, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be here.
Love it. And guys, I know I've done a ton of episodes with different entrepreneurs and people from different backgrounds, but I can honestly say this is probably an episode that I'm most excited about because I think one of the things is when you look at someone that has gone from being in a corporate job to starting their own business and making that transition, and you're looking to get guidance from someone like that, you want to look for somebody that is in the trenches. And I honestly cannot think of a more relevant example with current credibility than Christine. She started her own platform, CPHonestTea, which we'll have her talk about a little bit. Worked in the finance industry for 10 years in New York City, was doing extremely well with that. But we're going to talk a little bit about your transition today. And I follow your content, and I can honestly say there's a lot of people out there that, are influencers or that have different platforms, but your content is really good and your delivery is really good. And the way that you, just your outreach, I've been incredibly impressed. And as somebody that has a very entrepreneurial mindset, I'm as excited about this episode as anybody today because there's things that I want to learn. There's things that I want to ask you, right? So, but welcome to the show. Super grateful to have you on today.
Thank you. I mean, wow, I'm very flattered. I hope I answer everything and, help kind of streamline this process for you, for anybody else.
Yeah, awesome. I think people are going to get a lot out of this for sure. But let's maybe talk about first, just to kind of give people some background. What is CPHonestTea? Let's start there.
Sure. So CPHonestTea is my nutrition and mindfulness coaching business. It's an online business, and I started it June 2020 with the focus on combining nutrition and mindfulness to achieve a healthier lifestyle. I am certified in nutrition, but what I was noticing was there weren't a lot of programs out there or much guidance geared towards getting to the root of the issue with nutrition struggles. And most of this is a mindfulness thing. So, no one's coming to you saying, I gained a ton of weight or I lost weight in an unhealthy manner because I was so happy, things were great. people are coming to me because they're not feeling great. They put on weight because they're not feeling great. They're out of their routine, whatever it is. It's not something that's coming from a positive place. So that's where mindfulness comes in, the concept of mindful eating and really focusing on that. And I didn't notice any of that going on. It was like, here's a meal plan. This is what you should be eating. And that's it. But what about sleep? What about stress management? So combining equal parts mindfulness with nutrition is very much CPHonestTea, really focusing on that full picture of how both work together. You cannot have strong nutrition practices without a strong mindfulness practice, and vice versa.
Love it. I love it. And we're seeing more of this like holistic wellness pop up, I think, which is awesome. Was this an idea that, like, when did this idea come about? Did you always see yourself doing something like this, or were your plans different before?
Oh my goodness, this is kind of a long answer, but
We've got time, so it's fine.
So yes and no. Like, rewind, I always knew I wanted to do something with helping people, as cheesy and Miss America as that sounds, but I always knew that. And then that's very much why I went to undergrad for psychology. My whole plan was I was going to work in school social work, help kids, teenagers, in lower income family situations, and then eventually have a private practice. That was the plan. And I didn't see it changing. Fast forward, I was actually practicing therapy under my internship in graduate school through NYU. And I worked so hard to get into this program. Look at me, prestigious program at NYU, the whole nine. And they had told us on our first day that 50% of you are going to drop out from this program when you start practicing therapy, because you're going to experience burnout. And I'm like, not me. I got this. I have my plan. Fast forward, I'll save you the drama. That is exactly what happened. So I left NYU with no plan, a ton of loans, and just bet on myself and just decided I'll hit the ground running. I will figure it out somehow. I need money. I had to pay off student loans from undergrad and now NYU that I didn't finish. So I ended up working my way up in small positions, eventually landed in my first hedge fund I worked at doing assistant work, and then transitioned to where I was before, as of last week, for the past 5 years, a different hedge fund. And I've been a research administrator ever since. But during this time, I always felt still that something was missing in terms of like that passion project. The finance thing is great in terms of the people I worked with in my last hedge fund. I loved them so dearly. It was like a family, and the pay was great, but it was just a lot of long hours, the whole nine. And for something I'm not passionate about, I was passionate about the people there. And that really translated into a lot of wanting to give my 2 cents on, to my boss or coworkers, hey, why do you look so tired? You should be eating this, or how much sleep did you get? Or just offering all this guidance. Because I also was a college athlete. I played Division II tennis. So between that and the psychology background, I always had to have this balance of nutrition and mindfulness to show up ready to go in the classroom and on the court. And that always stayed with me. So circling back to where I was trying to get, it just stayed with me to want to help people in that sense of combining nutrition and mindfulness practices. And something, the light bulb went off December 2019. And I said, this is going to be my New Year's resolution. I'm going to get certified in nutrition, and maybe I'll just do some sort of passion project thing, make an Instagram, see what happens, maybe get a few clients, just share easy recipes, things that work for people that are busy. That's the biggest excuse, is I'm too busy. I don't have time, blah, 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 like all of this, and just really simplify these concepts of nutrition and mindfulness. So that was the plan, just a passion project. Fast forward, cue COVID, about a month and a half later, there wasn't much going on. So I had way more time to study for this exam. And I passed in early June 2020. So that really changed things, because the plan was to study throughout the year, get certified maybe the end of the year, make the Instagram, whatever. So I did it. I thought of the idea, was playing around with names for a while, but And my nature, I'm always kidding around, like, what's the tea? Spill the tea. For anyone who doesn't know, it's like, what's the gossip? What's the information? What's the 411? And everyone calls me CP, especially that I worked with, have like the initials here. Not many people say Christine that I worked with. So it just came naturally. So I just did it. I'm like, I'm going to make the Instagram. Let's just have fun. I needed something, especially between, work. Again, I mentioned it was great, but it was not the passion, but also just COVID. I'm like, people really need this right now. So let's just see. That's where it happened and formed. And then it took off and exceeded my expectations. That's the long-winded story of like half, yes, I've always wanted to work with people and help them, but no way did I ever plan or expect any of this.
That's amazing. So I want to go back on a couple of things that you said there too.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of good pieces to pull out there. The first thing, so if I remember correctly, you decided to walk away from grad school with like a semester left or something close. Is that right?
I was so close.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many people wouldn't make that decision out of fear almost, right? Like, well, I've come this far, like I've invested this much, even if their heart's not in it, they'll still go through and do it. Like, I mean, was there something where that helped you make that decision and come out and pivot into an industry that was completely different?
Absolutely. I have always been a proponent of ask yourself this question in any sort of decision, any moment, whatever it is this going to matter in 5 years? That's
huge. That's so big.
The answer to that was yes, because if I would have stayed, I would have taken out another semester of loans. And remember, it's not just, okay, you're done. Congratulations. Here's your placement in a social work position in a school. I have to then study for the exam, which is tough, pay for the exam, then go ahead and start on a typical social work salary, which is tough, between that and paying back the loans for something that I felt I'm just not going to pursue. So the return of investment there for me was energy and money for something that I'm just not aligned with. And I know that, and I'm going to resent it. Was I upset with the amount of time and effort? I had been working towards that goal from undergrad. I knew this is where I'm going to go. This is the plan. And I was always such a planner. So I was very upset about that, but I wanted to be very mindful about not being impulsive and just staying. So I'm like, well, I got this far. We all do that sometimes in life. We're like, well, I'm here anyway, might as well stay. And that was what I did. Is this going to matter in 5 years? Yes. Okay, done. Let's go.
Man, guys, if you're listening, that is worth the entire episode right there. And I cannot tell you seriously, like how many successful people, it is a common pattern. They have the ability to think in the future. I have a very good mentor of mine who's been incredibly successful. And he always says that. He says, I plan my life in 5-year increments. And like, you have to be able to look into the future and make the decisions to prune out the things that are not getting you to where you want to be in 5 years. That's so huge. The other thing that you mentioned there too is, as you're kind of progressing, you're in this corporate job, you have this idea for your passion project, which is funny because that's a lot of times where these great ideas start, right? It's just something that you're like, I'm not really trying to monetize this necessarily. This is just some place that I want to add value. And I think we talked about this before too, but you were so focused on just let me create something of value before you were thinking, let me monetize this. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. That is a fair statement, because I just wanted to have fun with it and help people. And the biggest thing for me was, again, with the social work background, it never left me the viewpoint and thinking of always being socioeconomically just aware and woke. And in the time of COVID, there were so many people getting laid off, furloughed, families that were already struggling were struggling even more. And what I remembered is Instagram is free. And it doesn't matter if you have an iPhone, an Android, whatever it is. There are so many different walks of financial lives that are on social media. And what I remember there is, this is good for access. The recipes that I share are all under 10 ingredients, no fuss, that anyone, if they're juggling multiple jobs, can make. And they're also affordable. There is not one recipe that I've ever developed that if there is a pricier ingredient, it's going to be a repeat ingredient. You will have it to use over and over, like a pantry staple item. So that was the goal. Let me help some people. This can be something that's going to be really, hopefully, serving a lot of people during a rough time. And that's what happened in the beginning. It was giving like the nutrition and mindfulness guidance, helping people really get aligned with better routines, because we all had to find new routines in COVID, no matter what your socioeconomic status was or not. And we all felt thrown off. So it kind of just took off from like, wow, you know, this is an easy thing I can do. And it became something that was just helpful.
Yeah, that's awesome. I get the idea that you're just very opportunity minded as well. And I think that's a great illustration, is like COVID was a time when a lot of people just kind of shelled up and they were like, well, let's just like ride this thing out. But then there were other people, the last woman I had on the show, actually, same thing, that took that opportunity during COVID and they said, okay, what are the needs here and how can we use this time to our benefit, right? Like you took that time to actually accelerate studying for the exam and actually like move this into something that ended up becoming monetized, right?
Yep.
I'll come back to a little bit of like the actual maybe nutrition content here, but talk about like at what point did you realize that this went from just a passion project to this is something that I should be charging people for. This is something that I could, because there's obviously still a free element, right? But like, when did you start to monetize or realize you could do that?
So the intention with it was always to eventually have clients.
Yeah.
But my thought was, how are you going to have clients when you have nothing to even, you know, market yourself with?
Yeah.
So I didn't, you know, jump on here like, hey, here I am taking clients. I just wanted to come on and say, this is what I'm about. This is the brand. This is the message. This is CPHonestTea. This is what I stand for, and really kind of educating about my practices. So I spent probably a month and a half doing that. And it started to organically come, like in my messages. Do you work one-on-one? And I was like, you know what, let me take this and run with it a little. So I started to talk more on the page. I talk a lot on Instagram stories as it is, but I started that initially with clients, really just saying, hey, I am taking people one-on-one. I'm new. I have no testimonials. I have my certification. You see what you see on the Instagram. So I will start at a much lower rate. I always offered free consultations. Let me know if you want to schedule a consultation, slide in my DMs. That's how it started. And from there, slowly it built up. So that's kind of what happened on the client side. But when I knew I could monetize and like leave my current job, you mean?
Sure. Yeah.
I would say the wheels really started turning in March 2021. So fast forward, by March 2021, I had 2 partnerships. I had done 2 podcasts actually that were really helpful, and just more organic following. And I also hit the point of needing a waiting list. And when I had that waiting list, you know, I had to take a step back and say, wow, one, I'm really upset that I don't, you know, feel I can allocate time to take more clients. That really upset me. And 2, I have a waiting list and I'm giving CPHonestTea about 50-60% of my efforts. What could happen if I did 100?
Wow.
And people around me started to kind of poke at me a little bit with that. Not really friends and family, but people who are in the business. You know, I really, to your point about networking, we've talked about this so many times, like through social media, I met other health coaches and they would point it out to me. We would connect, network, and I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. No. But that's when the wheels really started turning. And I was linked to someone who was taking on business mentorship clients. She was in a very similar situation to me prior. She had left her corporate job to build out her health coaching practice and yoga practice. And she was looking to mentor people who were curious about doing the same. So I just set up like a consultation with her. And we were friends, but like on the business side of things, I never worked with her. But she was like, you know, let's see. Why don't you just set up a consultation? All right. And I just felt so fired up in that consultation, and it made me feel like I can do this. Like I actually really can. So from there, I didn't share it with a lot of people, but I kind of really had the wheels turning in my head of, oh, I can do this. And from there, I told myself I would decide for sure in July 2021. Why? Because I was moving. I knew I needed a bigger space. And where I landed in rent, I felt would really determine this in terms of when I could do it. Because my mind was made up. I'm like, I want to do this eventually, but when? So come July, I moved. I locked in a decent rent, thank God, with all the COVID craziness. And I sat there and I crunched the numbers, and I told myself, I've always been a big nerd about saving money and personal finance. I'm like, I can do this. I can do it. I'm going to just do it. But before I could think about it too much, I made it real. And by making it real was I told the one person that I knew once I told there was no going back. And that was my boss, who I was extremely close with. I'm pretty sure he doesn't believe me, but he's the only person who got like the bawling tears, because that's what made it real, because we were so close and worked together for 5 years. So when I told him, there was no going back.
That's awesome. So now you hit on it, because I was going to ask you about this too, but taking on a business coach, like I think, some people are like, wow, like she really like figured all this out on her own, but it wasn't like there were things where you were moving in the right direction, but you still needed almost kind of that next layer, that other person to kind of give you the kick out the door almost. Is that fair to say?
Yes. I mean, I'm just someone who has always felt, like I mentioned earlier, like plan. This is my 5-year plan. And like, I've always trusted myself when it's gotten derailed, like exactly what happened with NYU. But like, I'm not someone, and this is normally what happens in these situations, I'm not someone that hated my job. I loved where I worked very much. So I'm like, I don't know, the pay is well. How do I even get health insurance? I don't understand. I don't even know how to register a business, anything. And I didn't know where to start. So she gave me the kick in the pants. And she also gave me a roadmap, which is key. So she took everything and compartmentalized it. And we're going to focus on your marketing materials. We're going to focus on a website. We really consolidated everything into small goals, so it made it more attainable.
Yeah. I love that too. And I think that's key, because it's like, you don't have to hate your job to want to go and start a business, right? Like, I think you're allowed to, and I think the way that you did it is awesome too. Like, if you have the ability to keep a full-time job while you're building up something outside of that and have that stable and steady income to then scale and grow. And then you put yourself in a really great situation where you get to choose, right? Like, you get to choose which one you would rather do. And I think sometimes people just with business ownership, they think like, well, I need to have all like this whole idea planned out, everything like, figured out. And then I need to just jump and go full in over here. And it's like, no, you can just start a little bit at a time. Right.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to ask you about your business coach, how far along was she kind of in her, I guess, journey of starting a business, or like, had she been doing it for a couple of years? I'm just curious.
You know what is so interesting, and I cannot wait for her to listen to this, is she was about 2 years in her process of having her own business, if that.
That's huge.
Only 2 years, maybe. I want to say, I don't know for sure, but I think. But I was her first business mentee in her business coaching program. So it was really interesting, because I took a chance on her. And that's how that side of her business grew. She now mentors so many other people who do the same. And that's how my business grew, like someone taking a chance on me. And for me, it wasn't about, how many years has this person been a business coach? No. I need someone who understands. And her background was the same as mine. Like, she did it all herself. There was no help from her parents, a partner, anything like that. So she had said, I'm starting this. I want to mentor other people. And boom, of course.
And that's exactly kind of what I led with to start this off, right? The whole current credibility thing. That's why I love that people are hearing from you, because you literally just walked away from your corporate job last week, right? Like this is so fresh. I love it. I mean, right. And so she was the same way, right? Like she was 2 years into that journey. And so
Yes.
everything that she's feeding you is so relevant. And that's so right. Like sometimes people think that, well, I need to talk to the guy that's been in this thing forever. And certainly that person can add value, but like so much of finding somebody to mentor or coach you, it's about a good personal fit. Like you guys jive together, but that person is like, they're doing it. There's a book out there. It's called The Common Path to Uncommon Success. It's by John Lee Dumas, and he started what at the time was like one of the fastest growing podcasts in the world it was called Entrepreneurs on Fire. But he talked about that exact same thing is like when he started that podcast, he found someone that had been doing a podcast for about a year and he hired them on as a business coach. And he said that was what absolutely changed the game. He also said in that book, and this is again, like so many things from that book where I guess this was the biggest thing that resonated with me, but he said he focused on being a person of value versus a person of success. And like, Christine, everything that you're saying is so much, it was like, and I see it with your content too. Like guys, follow Christine on Instagram too, at CPHonestTea, right? And, but your content, like you put out so much good content. It's just content. And I think that is so key of like why you started to see people reaching out to you. They're like, man, she really knows what she's talking about. I wonder if she can help me. Do you find that most of your clients are in a certain demographic? Or is it more women? Do you get men in there as well? Like what's kind of the breakdown? What does that look like?
I mean, let's be real. It's definitely mostly women because you men are so stubborn with asking for help, but that is just childhood stuff that I will get into, but
that is a fact. It is a fact.
Also, you guys are just so stubborn, but it's funny. The men that I do have, I have about 4 male clients, and obviously confidentiality, I can't say too much, but they come from the finance side. So they already are familiar with me.
Yeah.
So they kind of went with it because they are familiar with me, know me, and know a little bit about me. But my male clients are tough in the sense that they come in very much with, I don't want to do that. I've tried that. And I find that my women clients are a little more open-minded. But yes, the demographic I would say is millennial men and women. Yeah. And I have a few baby boomers as well that have come from referrals through family and people that I've met just organically out. So, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. What would you say are some of the biggest, like, what's one of the biggest health tips that you find yourself giving to clients, or maybe one of the biggest questions that you find yourself getting from people?
Ooh, okay. I'm going to separate that into 2 parts. So biggest tip that I give to anyone across the board is just really have one. Actually, I can combine that. So the biggest question I get always, no matter what, whether it's a weight loss goal or just I need to have a healthier routine or a weight gain goal, just anything, postpartum, I need to get a better routine. Now I have a baby, is how do I start? Where do I start? I don't know where to start. And I'm struggling to find time. Time management is always kind of rearing its ugly head into these situations. So the tip that I give, whether they're a client or it's someone just in my DMs or anything, is start every single day with not a million things. Don't get so overwhelmed with like, do meditation, journal, do all of this before 6 a.m. No, just choose one nourishing, non-negotiable that you do every morning, no matter what. The biggest one that I suggest, and everyone who knows me already knows what I'm going to say, every morning, 16 ounces of water with half a lemon squeezed into it. That is my nourishing non-negotiable. I train a lot of clients on it. However, it can speak to you, whatever that is. Maybe that looks like, okay, for me, no matter what, I'm going to journal for 10 minutes and really affirm what I want out of the day. Just picking one thing every morning, because what happens is when you start your day in some type of way where you're nourishing mind, body, soul, it's going to have a domino effect. Subconsciously, it will.
That's awesome. Why the half lemon squeeze?
Because come on, I gotta educate you about lemons now. All right.
Hey,
so
listen, this is for the audience, right? I know what you're gonna say, but go ahead.
All right. Well, guys, we're gonna pretend, you obviously don't know clearly about lemons. So I'll just educate you. I'm kidding. So basically it's going to help with your liver function, digestion, cleanse, help eliminate any toxins. But no matter what, having your day start with 16 ounces of water, lemon or not, is going to actually help hydrate and wake up your body naturally. Because when you sleep, you naturally detox always. Even if you're getting pretty crappy sleep, your detox might not be as great, but you're always naturally detoxing when you sleep. So when you wake up, your body is still in that process. It doesn't know just yet that we're wrapping up, time to get up. And that's kind of the signal for everything there. Oh, we're waking up now, and you're starting your day with vital hydration to help those organs, all those systems go ahead and hydrate and fuel you throughout the day.
Yeah.
So that is always why I push that one.
That's big. I like the domino effect thing too, because I think that too many people in any area of their life, they think, well, I need to make, XYZ change. So that requires 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's like they try to overhaul everything at once. And it's just, It never works, because, you just can't sustain that level of maybe willpower for habit change, if you will. Right. But I think that if you can just focus on one, you're right, it just simplifies it in your mind. Totally.
Absolutely. Plus every day is so different, right?
Yeah.
You don't know what can happen, but you will always have time. There's no excuse. You will always have time for that one non-negotiable nourishing practice that you'll do, because you're just focusing on one thing no matter what. And if you can get in maybe 2 or 3, awesome.
Yeah. On the topic of time and every day being a little bit different, right? Let's go back to, pre you leaving your corporate job, and you were balancing a very hectic schedule in finance, but then also, basically a full-time workload with CPHonestTea. And your schedule, you told me, right? It was every 30-minute window, or whatever, however you had it set up, but it was packed, right? What was that like? And we talked about it even before getting on this call, even kind of what the transition out of that has been like too. Maybe speak to that a little bit.
So I will keep it very, very real. Like I always do. It was really hard. I'm not going to sit here and say, I went right through it. It was fine. I kept my eye on the prize. Of course, I kept my eye on the prize, but it was really difficult. Difficult in terms of, again, I loved my job. I think it would be different if I didn't like it. So for anyone listening, again, reminder, I loved it there. So I didn't want to not give them 100% of my time. Remember, I told my boss and I told the firm in July. They knew my timeline to leave end of March.
Yeah.
So they knew, but I still wanted to show up for them while growing the business and really creating a strong financial safety net for myself. So I didn't want to turn away clients. I didn't want to say no. But what happened was there wasn't much time for me in terms of an 80 to 100-hour work week nearly. And what got me through it was a few things. One, and this is going to sound cheesy, but it is so true. All of my clients can confirm. It didn't matter how exhausted I was after a long day at the office. When I would come on and do my evening sessions, even if I had to drag myself to do it, something just switched. When I went into coaching mode, and I would leave those sessions totally energized. So I knew this is only temporary, Christine, do it. But the eye on the prize was it's temporary, you're going to be saving money, but it was hard. The answer, there wasn't really a strategy there. The strategies that got me through it were the non-negotiables I just mentioned. Right. Generally really focusing on the mindful eating practices and mindfulness practices that I preach. But did I experience burnout? Yes, tremendously. And I definitely had to be conscientious of my relationships and really just showing up in the sense of this is what I need for my friends and family of, I can't make sporadic plans. I can't just drop things to go to dinner. My schedule is booked literally weeks and weeks out so I can get it all in, and just asking for patience, asking for grace. But it was hard. It was really hard. There's no how-to great answer to that besides I kept the eye on the prize generally and just knew it was going to be temporary and knew I would have a financial safety net.
That's big for people to hear. I think that just knowing that it's a temporary season, but in that season, you're gonna have to roll up your sleeves. There's gonna be parts that suck. You're gonna have to just grind and push through it. But knowing that it is gonna pay off. I mean, I think that's anything worth succeeding at that you're going to do is going to take work and effort, and you're going to have to delay and put on the back burner some other things that, sure, I would love to go to this social event or to this thing. And it's just like, you can get all those things later, but right now, like, this is an opportunity in a window to seize the moment, right? And to really like move forward, which is I think is huge.
Totally.
We talked a little bit about kind of like the networking side too, which I do want to hit on, because I also noticed that about you. I think you're somebody that's really good at developing partnerships and like just meeting other people and networking yourself. So like, how has that been impactful? I know you connected me with, Mind Body Project in New York City, and I made awesome connections there, like phenomenal concept. And I'm still going to try to get him on my podcast too. So
we'll hit him up.
Yeah, but no, so I love so talk to that piece a little bit.
So first of all, I want to just make very clear, because this is something that I get asked a lot in terms of partnerships. And I talked about it recently. I was mind blown that I got partnerships, because my thought was, you have to have 50,000 followers and all of this, like, to have a partnership. I was convinced. I never thought I would have a partnership. That was not even in my mind. And how that happened was, again, I only post things that I use, love, and recommend. So they happened organically because these companies saw that my content was organic. And I was honest. Even so, Drink Iconic, that was the first partnership I had. I have it till this day. I still love it. Ironically, my full-time job, they order it all now. So it's awesome how that worked. But they saw me posting recipes that I would just make all the time with their stuff. And I would be honest, like, this flavor is a little these are my favorites. And it worked. And that's kind of what happened with other partnerships, because they saw the organic value that I brought to the table and that I wasn't an influencer. That's the biggest thing, is I always make clear the goal is not to be an influencer. My methodology is very much, I'm here to promote CPHonestTea, the brand, the coaching business. And if I can get paid to share the things that I'm sharing for free anyway, of course, and also get a discount for my clients, why not? Everyone wins. So it really just happened organically. And that's how every partnership has happened, just organically. Like Mind Body Project, I was contacted by their publicist just because, one, she is familiar with New York, the blogging, all of that. And she said, look at all the mindfulness work you do. And also, you're very real about your approach to it, and that it doesn't have to be this, rules-based thing of this is how meditation looks. For anyone who isn't familiar with Mind Body Project, it's a workout concept that combines not equal parts, but a meditation and HIIT combination. And she had reached out to me because she said, you always talk about meditation in a way that doesn't have to be so traditional. Here it is. So point being, and I will stop rambling, is these just came super organically based on the things that I shared. And I was very surprised. I still am.
That's really interesting. And I don't know if I would have expected to hear that, like, so much of this just came organically, but just as I'm listening to you talk, like, it's very apparent that you're incredibly genuine in your approach with all this, right? I think like the name is fitting, CPHonestTea, right? Like,
yes.
It's because you're just, I mean, like, it's very honest. And I think people see that coupled with just how much value that you put out. And it's, I think that's incredible that just all these kind of organic connections happen. Have you had like certain maybe connections or partnerships that have introduced you to other partnerships or other people that you've been able to connect with and leverage those connections?
Definitely. There's a partnership now that I can't announce yet, but it came through, a friend of a friend. And I've also connected with people that I'm working with now on certain things that I might have known or went to college with, but we weren't close. But because they've followed my page or I followed them, like, hey, what you're doing is really cool, and vice versa. That has brought us together to make partnerships and build working relationships. So yes, it has. I think you would be good for this. I think you would be good for that. Like, it just kind of comes up and has happened organically. Actually, Kelly, who we both know, I just was interviewed for an article because she referred me to her mom. So it's so interesting how it all works. So yes, it has come through networking and, the 6 degrees of people knowing each other and all of that. Yes, networking is really powerful. But again, I think people also recognize that getting partnerships or opportunities like that is not my intention, bread and butter wise, to be totally honest, because I'm not an influencer. So I'm very much open to creative possibilities. I'm not a pushy person when it comes to this is my goal. I want to nail partnerships, nail a certain amount of money. I'm just not that. I'm always open. So if I can get a partnership or do something that's cool like that and it's aligned with my methodology and what I use, sick, great. My focus really is bread and butter for my coaching business.
That's amazing. It is probably a way less stressful way to approach this too, versus the person that's always like, I need to grow my account by X number of followers. I need to get this many partnerships and all of these things.
No, you can see it. You can see
Right.
it in someone's content, but it does work for some people. Remember, an influencer is an actual job. There are people that is all they do, and they promote all kinds of things, and it works for them, and it works extremely, extremely well. For me, there's also the component here about nutrition and mindfulness, and I'm really talking about some sensitive subjects, especially when it comes to nutrition.
Sure.
So I can't just come out of the gate. I've been offered paid opportunities to speak about certain brands that I'm like, I don't really like how this tastes, honestly. Or like, I'm like, I'm not going to do it because I'm just going to be a sellout. So
that's
so
important. That's so important, is being able to say no to things that don't align. It's like, don't just fake it just to try to get, a dollar in the bank. Right.
And you won't get the dollar. That's the whole thing. And on the business side of this, I always, always, always try and preach. I just was saying this to someone yesterday who booked a session with me to focus on partnerships and talk about it. The money's going to come when it's something you love. Like, for instance, Drink Iconic, my fridge is completely stocked with it. So it's so easy for me to be like, this is what I'm having. This is what I love. Here's the discount code. When someone uses that code, they get a discount. I get a cut, and Drink Iconic makes a sale. Everyone wins. Everyone's happy. And I love the products. If I'm just promoting something that I got paid to promote, I'm going to use the stock that they gave me, and I'm not going to spend my own money on it again. So where's the money there? You're not going to bring in more than $1, to be honest.
Yeah. No, that's so good. Everything that you're saying about, I think, just being a person of value, and people, I think you post like a lot of content too. And so people that follow you, like the person you mentioned that you hadn't talked to in a number of years from high school, right? Like they were following, they saw what you were doing over time, and it just, for whatever reason, timing was right for them. And then they reached out to you, right? Like, and so I think that's another lesson too, is just be consistent. Where, like, if you're somebody that's trying to start, whether it's an Instagram page or whatever, like that breakthrough might not happen right away or in the timeline that you necessarily expect. But like, if you stay consistent and you're excited about the content that you're putting out, then it's like over time, people see that, and you brand yourself a certain way in that arena as somebody that's credible, and people are going to, you're going to start to pick up that business, right?
Absolutely. And listen, not once in almost 2 years now, CPHonestTea will be around, has asked, can I see your nutrition certification? No one has asked. So that's exactly what it is. Just being a person of value and remembering the intention, not, you're here, especially as someone who is a health coach. The purpose is I want to help people. I want to serve. So when you come in with the intention of service and not selling, it shows. People feel it, not being pushy, not feeling. And again, this is why I had the big financial net. I didn't want to leave and have to say, oh, I need to get 4 clients, or, the lights are going to get shut off. No, I wanted it to be an open space of just, I'm here to serve. Please come to me if it's something that you want. If you're ready, come talk to me for free, and let's see if it's something that you actually feel aligns with what you need.
Love it. So just as we kind of wind down here too, maybe what's like one thing that now you're out of the corporate job, you're full-time CPHonestTea, kind of like, where do you see this going? And like, maybe what's like one of the bigger things that you're excited about?
I am so excited to have time to really to create more books in terms of like digital downloads, more ebooks, more e-guides, tip sheets. I eventually would love to make my signature 12-week accountability program a online course for someone who would like to go at their own pace. I would love to do more of that. And that is very much the goal, because I was unable to properly allocate time to sit and really write those things. That's copy that I come up with myself. So that's what I'm so excited for. That's my biggest focus. I'm actually also doing my first virtual retreat, which is going to be for mothers, specifically with a friend and business partner, Amanda. She's incredible. She's an entrepreneur. She's very inspiring. So we're going to tag team and do something together. So a lot more group events for CPHonestTea is what I'm really looking forward to, and more of those digital download products I mentioned.
That's awesome. Have you done some other like community type events like that to this point?
I've done group workshops. So for a while I was doing 2 different topics a month, and it was just, sign up, come, you don't have to be a consistent client. Anyone could come, and it would be focused around, I've done some on intro to mindful eating. That was the biggest one. I did one mindful eating specifically for weight loss. I did a whole class recently on time management. I did one on personal finance, which that I've been asked a lot about now. And that's a whole other umbrella now that I'm thinking of, oh my goodness, like maybe I should look into financial coaching, because now I'm getting asked it all the time. How did you do it? How did you figure it out? And I'm sharing savings hacks and all of these other things where people are like, give me more. So
totally,
definitely some work around that too.
That's a big area. That's awesome. Last question for you. Promise the last one here, but you're clearly very driven. You get a lot of stuff done. You briefly alluded to it earlier, but taking time for yourself and your recharge time, and I know maybe sometimes you even have to stop and like, whoa, what do I actually do for that? But like for you, like, what does that piece look like?
Whew, well, we are struggling to navigate that piece right now. So I really planned, this is my first week out of the corporate job. I'm like, I'm going to keep a really light week. I'm not going to do much, just my regular clients and a few things I need to get done for this virtual retreat. Nope. I have packed my schedule, but it's from excitement. I'm like, now I have time to do this. So I'm still learning how to navigate that. But what it looks like when I do have it, the best example I can give actually is when I was juggling both. Friday nights for me were sacred. I really did not make plans Friday nights. It was just when I'm going to lay on the couch, watch Bravo Housewives with the cat, and just chill out. And that's kind of what it still looks like, or just as it gets warmer, going on a walk without my phone, things like that. So I need to carve more of it. I definitely learned this week that I am like borderline a workaholic, but yeah. So come back to me on that maybe in a few months and I'll have a better answer.
Yeah, it's a very fresh transition. So I don't blame you there. So I'll point out too, you have the most awesome logo that a friend designed for you actually, right? It's you and your cat.
Yes.
Yeah. So how can people find out more about you, Instagram, wherever?
Totally. So go ahead if you have Instagram and follow. It's just at CPHonestTea. And then my website is just www.cphonesttea.com. And I have given in and made a TikTok, and it's just CPHonestTea.
Nice. Love it. Well, Christine, this was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I'm going to enjoy listening back. And I know that everybody that's listening, they're going to enjoy it and they're going to share it. Be sure to share, be sure to subscribe. Go follow Christine. Seriously, awesome content. And I'm super excited just to see where things go from here for you.
Me too. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, guys, until next time, we'll see you.